have the exercise 5, which was based on simulating the LiH molecule. So for simulating the LiH molecule, first we need to see how the LiH molecule is, the chemical structure of that. So we know that the hydrogen atom, so LiH is made up of lithium and hydrogen. Hydrogen atom has this particular atomic structure where the first s orbital of the hydrogen atom has one electron, so that's why 1s1, and lithium has this particular structure where it is 1s2, so it has a total of 3 electrons. So in the first s orbital we put 2 electrons, and then in the second s orbital we have only 1 electron left, right? And by combining these two, we can write the total the total molecular structure of the LiH molecule as something like this: 1s2 and 2s2, right? So we can see that the only two molecular orbitals that we are using here is 1 and 2. Okay, so you might be knowing that there are an infinite molecular orbitals in any molecule, but they might not be filled with electrons, but there are infinite molecular orbitals, and electrons can essentially jump from a lower energy state to higher energy state, okay, in some other orbital. So since we are only talking about the ground state of the molecule, we can be rest assured that we will only be using these two molecular orbitals, and we won't use any like 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. Okay, so yeah, this was one important thing that I noticed during the challenge. And so first what we do is we initialize the atomic structure of LiH. So we do this using the PySCF driver, which is an open source library in Python. Okay, and the molecule looks something like this, where you define the lithium at the position 0, 0, 0. This is the x, y, z coordinates, and hydrogen at the 0, 0, and then 1.5474 angstrom. So the reason for that is that this is the most stable configuration for the LiH molecule for interatomic distance. And then we run this driver, so we get a representation of the quantum structure of the molecule, right? Then we just initialize the backend that we want to use. In this case, we are using the state vector simulator. Okay, and to keep track of all the particles and all the things that we need further, I have defined all these things as well, which is the number of electrons, which is the number of alpha and beta particles, that is the upspin and downspin particles in the molecular orbitals. Then the number of molecular orbitals we can directly get from the Q molecule variable. Then the number of spin orbitals is generally 2 times the number of molecular orbitals. Same for the number of qubits, because we are mapping the spin orbitals onto the qubits in this case. So the number of spin orbitals that we have, the same number of qubits we'll have for that. And finally, the nuclear repulsion energy, which is we don't need for the base calculation of the energy, but adding the nuclear repulsion energy to the electronic energy gives us the energy of the full molecule. So that's why we keep it as a variable. So essentially this explanation is the same thing. So H is 1s1, Li is 1s2, 2s1, and LiH is 1s2, 2s2. So the first thing that we do here is that we saw that we don't need any other molecular orbitals from 1 and apart from 1 and 2. So we remove some orbitals. So this basically reduces our overhead of calculating operators and values for those orbitals. And mostly, if we remove the orbitals till 4, that is more than enough, because as the orbital number increases, the effect of that particular orbital on the energy decreases. So in this particular example, I have removed 3 and 4 orbitals, and this is known as the freeze core transformer. That means it freezes those particular orbitals because they are essentially empty. okay, and there are no electrons present in that. Now we take this particular molecule and we convert it into an electronic structure problem. And what an electronic structure problem is that we encode it in such a way that we can define a Hamiltonian for the problem, which defines the like the energy of the whole system. Okay, and the Hamiltonian is known as a two local Hamiltonian. And why two local is because only the electrons that are in the same orbital will interact. So at max there are only two particles which are interacting with each other at one instant of time. So that's why we can define a two local Hamiltonian of this particular problem. Okay, and we do that by calling these particular three lines of code. So we define an electronic structure problem, and we pass in the Friese-Codd transformer here. Okay, and we get the second quantized operators for the Hamiltonian, and finally we get the Hamiltonian itself. Okay, from the first like the first parameter of these second quantized operators. So here you can see that the number of molecular orbitals are actually 3. Okay, whereas the number of spin orbitals are 6. Okay, so yeah, so we take this into account and do some further manipulation in order to optimize this thing. So initially what we do is so there are two symmetries that we see here. So one is known as the parity symmetry, and Z2 symmetry is like quite high level topic, so I won't be covering in full depth, but just keep this in mind that these two symmetries essentially like help us to reduce the number of qubits that we use for simulating the molecule. Okay, and we'll see how that happens. So we saw here that number of spin orbitals was 6, and we already discussed earlier that since we are mapping the spin orbitals to the qubits, the number of qubits we'll have to use for this will also be equal to 6, right? So number of spin orbitals is equal to the number of qubits. So yeah, what we do essentially is we use a parity mapper. So there are other types of mappers as well, like there is Jordan-Wigner mapping, there is Bravais-Kitaev mapping, but here we use parity mapper because there is an inherent parity symmetry in this particular problem, in this specific problem. So these symmetries are actually problem, like it depends on the problem that you're working with, and also there is an inherent Z2 symmetry in the system. So we define the parity mapper, and we also like define the Z2 symmetry reduction. So what this does is it finds the Z2 symmetries in the problem and reduces the number of qubits according to the number of symmetries. And yeah, so it looks something like this, and we define the we define a converter here, qubit converter. So this maps the particular fermionic operators onto the qubits, and then we convert the particular Hamiltonian from the fermionic operators, that is this A and A dagger representation, which is the annihilation and creation operator, to essentially the qubit operators, and we get the qubit op, that is the Hamiltonian in terms of the qubit operators. And yeah, so then finally what we do is first we calculate the exact energy. That means we have got the Hamiltonian now, so we diagonalize this Hamiltonian and we get the exact energy that like diagonalizing the Hamiltonian should give us. Okay, which is the like according to the electronic structure of LIH, this is the energy that we should get, and we use this as an estimate to basically work ahead on a problem. And first we generate the initial state using the Hartree-Fock method, and this is like an approximation. So as you can see that here there were 6 spin orbitals, So we had to use 6 qubits, but due to parity mapping and Z2 symmetry reduction, we only end up using 4 qubits. So we reduced 2 qubits, and that is very, very good, because like today, like nowadays, the quantum computers are not so good. Okay, they have noise, and they have many errors. Okay, so until we develop fault tolerant quantum computers, it is always good to reduce the number of qubits that you're using somehow. Okay, and this is the initial state that we develop, and this is known as the Hartree-Fock initial state. Then finally, since we want to optimize this particular qubit Hamiltonian to get the ground state energy, we define something known as a problem ansatz. And ansatz is basically like an educated guess or an assumption that we take that we make in order to try to figure out the structure of the interactions that is happening in a certain system, quantum system, right? So we take this initial state stored in the init state variable, and the ansatz, for ansatz we use something known as a two local ansatz, because our Hamiltonian is a two local Hamiltonian. We know that the maximum interaction that will happen is between two particles. Okay, so we use the two local ansatz in this case, and we generate an ansatz like this, and we append this particular initial state in front of that ansatz. Okay, and once that is done, we transpile our particular circuit. Okay, and transpilation basically reduces the actual circuit into the representation of its basis gates, that is the U gate and the CX gate, and it also optimizes the circuit, and this is the final circuit that we get. We have the 3 C naughts, that is the highest score that was possible, and then finally we run our optimization loop. Okay, here using the VQE function, and the optimization happens, and we get this particular energy, which basically has an error of 2.33 millihartree. The threshold was 4 millihartree, as you can see here. So it is within the threshold, and the C0 score is 3, which is like the least score. So the score actually is like the lesser the score, the better your circuit is. Okay, so yeah, the cost was basically 3, and yeah, that was the solution for the exercise 5. Yeah. So yeah, if there are any questions, I am ready to take those.
Hello, Abir.
Yeah.
I had this question, like, from where did you studied all this material for the exercise 5? Because like I was even trying to solve it, but the, all the necessary condition for understanding the things were quite complicated. So, is there
Okay.
any special material which you followed?
Yeah, so one thing was, during the challenge, the Slack channel was very active. So I actually was looking at everyone who has solved the problem, and like they were discussing about the problem. So like there were very good discussions on Slack channel. So, and there were also some resources that were given on the challenge Slack channel. So I referred those, and there are papers by there are like the original paper of the LIH simulation that was published in Nature, so by Abhinav Kandala and the other authors. So that was actually pretty helpful in understanding this particular problem.
And even they had tried.
Yeah, Nilay, go ahead.
like had last year QGS Lab 8.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So there are videos on quantum chemistry as well from last year's Qiskit Global Summer School. So yeah, you can watch that. So they actually discuss about all this parity mapping and the two local Hamiltonian, everything. So yeah, that is also one good resource. Thanks for reminding me that.
Yeah, I actually, get to one of the videos and all, but
Hmm.
actually it was, I don't know, it was a bit of you know hard for me. Okay, so yeah, that's why I gave up at last, and also it was the last day, so yeah. And also I heard that someone solved it using one C naught gate as well. Um,
Yeah, so one CNOT gate result was actually there was some problem in that, or like it was not a valid solution. So at the end, like towards the end, they actually discarded the solution with one CNOT. So three was the minimum cost that was there. That was the problem then.
Even two was there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
The two was
one and two they discarded because they were invalid solutions.